Hello, this is David with Stupid Things People Do and what we can learn from them. Last time we discussed pattern or practice liability and what that can mean for an organization, as well as how EEOC guidelines can help you avoid it. This time I'm going to discuss what musical chairs and abusive employment practices have to do with each other. So, where to begin? Well, imagine you're part of a major national hotel chain, and you run one of the biggest hotels in New York. Maybe the Grand Hyatt. Now, priorities are priorities, and it's very important to make sure that your front desk workers are standing at attention when they greet guests. That way, visitors feel like they're a Grand Admiral when they walk through the front door. Sarcasm aside, I never really understood why we expect cashiers and desk workers to stand up all day. I get it seems too casual elsewise, but even in countries with royal legacies like the UK, cashiers are allowed to sit, and those royal lineages don't seem to be self-destructing from all of that informality. Other things, but not informality. Anyway, apparently it's important for people to stand to attention. So what happens when someone can't stand? Well, that kind of tests the premise of how necessary job function standing really was, doesn't it? And that's exactly the situation that happened at the Grand Hyatt. They had an employee who, for medical reasons, could not stand all day. Now, I won't belabor what those medical reasons are because you have to really dig to figure that out. And so it's not general knowledge, and it is private medical information. So that's not going into this log. The question is, how did the Grand Hyatt handle it? Well, logistically, they had three options here. Decide that standing all day really is a critical function of the job, and since you can't reasonably be standing while sitting, fire the poor kid. Of course, there's a real problem with that line of thinking, because then if you get sued, the question is whether the law agrees that this was a critical function of the job, and that's not likely to happen, as we'll get into in a second. See, the second option they had was to decide that standing all day really is a secondary function of the job, and since it's very easy to operate a computer thingy while standing, they can provide a chair for the person. Of course, there's a problem with this one, too, because it kind of gets a twisted give a mouse a cookie scenario. See, apparently giving an employee a break draws toxic managers like tigers to catnip, which brings us to our third option. Give them a chair. Take it away. Give them a stool. Take it away again. It's not the sitting or standing that's the critical job function. It's the stress and confusion. So, quick clarification on the facts. In this specific example, the Grand Hyatt only retconned their chair once. So, no chair, yes chair, no chair, in that order. Though that little fact check also means that the Hyatt took the confusion route. Because of that, they're the one being showcased in my videos. So, confusion was a bad idea. But why, though? Well, let's get back to the point. Let's pretend that they hadn't provided a chair at all. There's a big issue with that, which is that while standing at a front desk is a cultural norm for the United States, it's not actually a critical role of a hotel desk attendant or concierge. Those job duties typically include registering guests, processing payment, and responding to guest inquiries. Standing while doing this has about as much in common with the job requirements as being petty while managing. And that means, in principle, a concierge could sit down while performing her job duties. And this isn't the only time this issue has been litigated in the United States. The question is whether a chair is reasonable. And yes, at some point, we've crossed over into the legal clown world where we're asking whether or not a chair is a reasonable accommodation. Common sense says, bro, it's not hard. You have an office. Offices have chairs. But it's still worth unpacking. The reason being, an accommodation is not reasonable if it would cause an undue hardship, and that includes factors such as financial costs, business operations, or impacts on other employees, etc. So, for example, if an employee demanded a $10,000 massage chair, that would probably not be a reasonable accommodation. But if they just need a slightly padded stool, well, that's something else. The trick here is the company is supposed to engage in a conversation with the employee. So if Little Miss Muffet desires a Tuffet 10,000 Massage Pro Lounger, the company can respond by saying, that's not really on brand or in budget, so how about if we get you a $100 gaming chair? Problem solved. Or at least it should have been. Like I said, the Hyatt let him have the chair, which means they initially acknowledged his need for the chair and that they could accommodate that need, and then reversed course, which is entirely the worst of all possible decisions. So, instead of affording their employee a $100 chair, they ended up paying out $100,000 in settlements and had to provide training to their employees about rights and responsibilities, including rights involving back pain and sitting down in chairs. So how does this tie back into the EEOC guidelines? Well, this is not the first time that the issue of workplace musical chairs has been litigated. It happened again with a different hotel and in very similar circumstances in 2023. Like I said at the start of this video, Americans have cultural assumptions, such as retail workers should remain standing, and those assumptions may not always be legal. It's not always illegal to force your workers to stand, though in some places like the UK, it actually is. It's that it can be illegal if doing so would violate ADA. And with complexities surrounding bathrooms and pronoun use and political speech in the workplace, this is yet one more thing among a whole litany of things that can begin legal but can quickly become illegal. So what does that mean? Well, it's important to be aware of how federal and state law can affect your organization. Don't presume that just because it's normal to force hospitality employees to stand, that it's consequentially legal to do so. Get good legal counsel and make sure that your policies have justification beyond cultural norms. This has been Stupid Things People Do. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.